Jennifer, how are you?
I'm fabulous. I have one more week left to be in my wonderful age.
For those out there who are trying to decipher that comment, Jennifer's birthday, 7/7. So if you're thinking about having a cocktail, now you know the name of the cocktail to order. If you're going to be in Vegas, now you know the number to play.
Yep.
You know, I thank you for reminding me. My friend Dave Patlack, his birthday is also on 7. What did you do on 7/7/7/7? You were just a little wee toddler, but do you remember?
That's interesting. I think that's when Elvis died.
I don't know. We can ask him, but 7.
Sure,
well, that would be something that would be.
That's really interesting. I just remember I'm in the living room. I just was being placed in the living room. My dad came back from a run and we're watching the news. And it was, I think Elvis passed.
Must have been around that time. I mean, we could look it up.
I think it was 78.
So around your birthday on 78? Well,
79.
Of course, you know, like most of my comments, it's a preamble to referring to something I did that date, which was my friend's birthday. And we went out to Vegas and we played on 7/7/7/7. We played a lot of numbers. And I got to say, it was my first trip to Vegas and I didn't lose anything. I mean, we left there after.
Amazing.
It was amazing. We left there. I think each one of us had a couple $100. And that's what they do. You know, they know that it's your first time somehow and that they let you win a little bit so they get you to come back.
Right.
Just like reincarnation. Something like that. Okay. Well,
I don't know. Are you wanting to come back?
So we have had complaints online. Where are you guys? What happened? Is that it? Is it the end? Is the podcast over? I mean, really?
What?
Well, you know, one time we're not there and then they're like, oh my God, the world has come to an end. Anyway.
I think that's wonderful though.
It's sweet. It's kind of funny though.
That is kind of funny. But hold on a second. Okay, I was just being brought back to that moment again. So when you were talking about it, why did you ask me that question just out of curiosity?
What were you doing on 7/7/7/7? It was so that I could then talk about going to Vegas.
Oh, all right. So here, all back to you again.
All back to me in case we forgot about me.
Hey, and for listeners out there, by the way, Richard, you talk to us about Gaia real fast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, our film that Jennifer's in called Hacking the Afterlife dropped on Monday, June 21st. They have no algorithm for me to check how many people have watched it, but all I can say is it's 10 years of filming people, including Jennifer, so graciously, and other mediums and hypnotherapists like Scott Tamble and Michael Newton, as well as this kind of unusual form of, I call it meditation, but it's kind of like talking to people who had a near-death experience and asking, like our friend Steph Arnold, asking them what happened during that near-death event. And by them talking about it, I'm able to ask them questions about their guides, teachers, their soul group, or whatever it is. And they answer the questions. And because I don't know if they can answer, you know, I don't know what they're seeing, but I'll ask them, can we go visit your council? So for those who've been watching our podcast for a while now, we're up to 66, my age, the root. I think it'd be a good film to take a look at because Jennifer's in it and a number of people are in it. And all of this thing of me saying, well, there's footage, just take a look at the footage.
By the way, 66 is my sister's number from my dad, Route 66. She has the house, he loved cars.
Very good. My daughter, for Father's Day, let's see if I can get that on camera. There it is.
That's my dad's thing. That's so cool.
Very cool. You know, if you ever plan to motor west, take the highway my way. It's the best. Get your kicks. Anyway, so Route 66. So, yes, please do tune in to Hacking the Afterlife on Gaia. You just go to Gaia.com, GAIA.com, and you type in Hacking the Afterlife. It's free if you sign up with their service and then cancel after a month or whatever it is. But you will have your mind bent by watching this film. I really do believe that there are things that your guides and teachers send you to look at. And if you don't have to take Jennifer's word or my word or anybody else's word, but allow your guides to watch the film.
Right.
By you watching the film, you're allowing your loved ones on the flip side to watch the film as well.
And they will give you clues if they're around, like the chills when you hear something from somebody.
And in the comment section today, I saw, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the comment section today, someone wrote, I can't stop crying watching this film, which I think it's a good review, but he was trying to say, there's so many things in it that were giving him chills that made of recognition, you know. So whatever, I think it's something that Jennifer and I talk about often. You know, we're trying to help people access this information themselves. We're trying to let people, they don't have to put on a pyramid hat. They don't have to see a medium. And as Jennifer so graciously insisted, we put a workbook in our book, Backstage Pass to the Flip Side, where, you know, she gives you tips on how you can access your loved ones directly. So
yeah. My dream was to be out of a job because the world would look so much better. You know, it would be such a better place if everyone knew that they had access.
I totally agree. It would be such a more wonderful place. I think, look, and then people ask me, like, when is this going to happen? Because I talk about the fact that it took 66 years from the Wright brothers to get to the moon. The Wright brothers, Kitty Hawk, and then 66, there's that number again, people were landing on the moon. So that's how long it took for that leap. It may very well be that we're into year, I don't know, 10. Five, since Jennifer and I met 5 years ago. And you figure, okay, 61 years from now, this will be very commonplace. People will be looking at this conversation we're having with people on the other side as, what? What's the big deal? Where are the ads? So apologies to Luana and the class for not seeing you last week, but is there anybody that needs to come forward that wants to talk to us?
Oh, and the reason why, for the audience, Jack, my son, graduated from high school.
Yay! Good job,
We're
Jack.
never going to stop this podcast. We're going to be old and decrepit in our homes with our nurses.
He'll take it over.
Hey, give us our podcast. Okay. We'll be channeling everyone by then, right? Okay.
That's right.
Luana. All right. Why is she banging her clipboard? And for the listeners out there, I have a clipboard with her name on it, and I also put Route 66 because I asked my dad to show me some more signs because my whole family's getting together tomorrow, and 66 is a big part of it. So, why is she banging her clipboard? Okay. She said she did talk to you this morning while you were drinking coffee.
Okay, that sounds right. Maybe even before I had the coffee.
Maybe it took a while to make it or to get
It's that sort of thing where you're waking up and you realize you're having a conversation with someone.
Oh, and she just reminded me, I talked to her yesterday because every time before I do wine and spirits in Hermosa Beach once a month, I always ask the class to be there. Always. I'm like, can you guys please, I tell them throughout the day, can you please make sure that you're there, you know, and help the other people from the other side come through a little bit, you know, clear. It was fascinating. And over a full moon, which I believe it was a full moon yesterday, the reason why people are really sensitive, besides the fact that the moon and your body is made up mostly of water and blah, 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 all that stuff, is because spirit is like right here. It's so, I know that sounds crazy, but it's so tangible. They're so clear. There is no like jump, like talk to your loved ones. If you get a little vision of someone, talk to them. Right. And you don't have to talk to them out loud. Just go, hey, what are you doing? And they might show you a memory. They might show you what they're, you know, as you have always said to me, which has helped me throughout my life, is do not judge it.
Don't judge it. But and then also this thing that we heard from Michael Newton when he showed up unexpectedly in a restaurant in Manhattan Beach and started talking to Jennifer. And we asked him, what's a really simple way to tell people to connect with people? And he said, look, just say their name and ask them questions. And of course I said, well, how do you tell the difference between making stuff up or actually hearing from a loved one? And he said, when you get a response before you can ask the question, then you'll know you're connected.
Correct.
So if you're asking questions to your loved one, as Jennifer just said, ask a bunch. How you doing? Where are you hanging out? Who are you hanging out with? What do you like over there? What do you miss about being here? And when something appears in your mind, could be an image, before you can even get to the question, because they're outside of time. They know what you're going to ask.
Right.
So that's a lovely way of making that kind of connection. So, but Lou, take a look at your clipboard, dear. Is there somebody on there that we need to chat with?
Is that because I said him before? It's Elvis.
Oh, okay. Well, you did mention him. You did mention him earlier. And for people who are not familiar with Backstage Pass, the flip side, we have spoken with him before. I asked him about but I'll ask you some of the same questions because why not?
He just said blue suede shoes again. I'm actually hearing the song, which is kind of nutty. Again, I'm not thinking it. I think he's making fun of me. He's like, you should have had a blue and black party versus a pink and black party I'm gonna have.
Well, what is on the agenda there?
I don't know. Just go ahead and start asking questions.
Okay. Well, that's for the people who haven't picked up Backstage Pass or have heard him interviewed before in our podcast. Who was there to greet you when you crossed over? Or what was the experience like?
He said he recognized a child. So I don't know if they had a child or she had a pregnancy that didn't go right. But it felt like a child. And I know that wasn't the answer the last time.
No, it's okay. Because listen, people do put more into their story because he knows we've asked the question before.
Right.
But still, seeing somebody, a child, that's what you want to mention.
I feel like you need to say, like, even if a child,
I see. Maybe he's trying to bring this point forward, which is, especially for people that have lost one before that child came to term. People often do report being greeted by that child.
And it's a lovely experience that I believe in the thousands of readings that I've given, that before the spirit enters the body, they know what's going to happen, whether or not it's going to be terminated, whether or not it's going to come to fruition, or whether or not there's something wrong and they have a miscarriage. Countless of times, those children, even though they're not born here, they're born over there. They're able to still, I call it the first rite of spirit around someone, is that child. They get to be around you. They get to grow up and check in and help the other kids. They get to help you with other kids that are born later. They help facilitate that. So I believe he's bringing that up. Like, you still get to greet the loved ones that didn't necessarily make it.
And the reason, is it partially because you want to talk about how we're all connected? Or do you want to talk about how the process works?
All of it.
And all right, just in terms of this person, was it a boy or a girl?
It was a girl.
And was this somebody that you knew from a previous lifetime, or is this somebody you knew had met only in this lifetime?
It wasn't with Priscilla.
So, but was it somebody that was supposed to come to you in this lifetime, or perhaps previously?
No, it wasn't something that was supposed to come to me this lifetime, but I knew that this person, or found out after the fact that this person didn't have the baby or didn't have.
I see. I see. So it could have been somebody that you might have had a baby with, but didn't.
Correct. Didn't even,
And for whatever reason. And so then when you recognize this being, are you seeing them as a small toddler? Or are you seeing them just as light or as energy? Or how do you see them when?
that's a great question. Because he showed me the process of of he was showing me as he was coming to the other side. And he goes, you can only imagine how disgruntled I was at first. He goes, but then all of a sudden my heart was just completely full of joy, and that there were no mistakes that were made, that everything that was made was supposed to be made.
It was all part of the journey that you had planned
Right.
in advance.
He didn't feel, thank you. He goes, I didn't feel bad for anything. I was told that everything was exactly the way it was supposed to be.
That's beautifully put. Now, just to point out that some people have a hard time with that because, of course, first their brain freezes when you say your name, Elvis, because they can't get past the fact that here we are, people who didn't know him.
And then he just put Prince in front of him.
Put him in front of you. So, but the idea, yeah, but that idea that we could talk to you, we don't know you, but but we have before, and we're familiar with the process. And as Carl Lemley, who showed up 2 weeks ago, who we'd never met before, just sort of showed up willy-nilly and wanted to have a conversation.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
Carl, well, 2 weeks ago, a film producer showed up, and the point was that he wanted to participate. He wanted to share something. It wasn't like we asked him. And in this case, it's identical. So Elvis, Aaron Presley, you came. I've been to your home in Tupelo, Mississippi. I just happened to be driving around Mississippi and Tupelo. It's like, oh my God, that's his house where you were born. But the question I have for you, sir, is, so is that what you want to come and talk about, the process of incarnation? Or do you want to talk about music a little bit?
Thank you. He says, no, the process. He said that I know that would have helped me if I was to hear that before I left the planet.
I see.
The information that we're discussing right now, whether I believed in it or not believed in it, he goes, it resonates on some level. It will resonate with some part of your being.
I understand. There's also this idea that we have a higher self that is aware of what we're doing or watching us on stage. And like I say, someone watching the film, Hacking the Afterlife, or someone watching our podcast, right, in the midst of their disbelief, their higher self is going, hey, that's accurate, or that part is right. So in terms of process, so what you're trying to point out and make people aware is that this is a temporary stage that we're on, and that the things that happen here are kind of planned, not 100%, but they're not in stone, but they're improvised. Is that correct?
So he's showing me, like, let's say 10 things were planned in your life, like having a child, getting married, your work, being a singer. He said, and he goes, and then from that, so if he's showing me a grid. So if you have 10 things, 10 points happening, he goes, then you have 100 points underneath that, which I believe are coincidences, they're saying, and then 1,000 beneath that. So there's so much work that we're not consciously aware of to have those things happen, right? And there's different ways to get to that point. There's different ways, to get to wherever you're supposed to go.
To connect those dots.
Right.
That we sort of have a grid that we've laid out for us, but correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes you don't connect the dots for whatever reason.
Correct.
So somebody changes their mind.
Hold on. And that's what you have to make up in your next life.
Oh, okay. So let's say, so let's ask you about that. You had a life review with friends, I assume with family, like what people report, teachers, guides, everyone's there.
Mhm.
Some people report like a giant auditorium. And some people report like just beautiful experiences of first person connectivity, and some negative, obviously,
Right.
you know, because they get to relive those experiences. What was that like for you? What was your review?
Long.
Long. And by long, you mean like days and days and days, or
It's instantaneous, but
like a huge download, but with tons of information?
that's it.
And so does everybody simultaneously get that information? Or because I've actually had a dream where I was witnessing somebody giving a life review, and I was, you know, maybe up in row 60, and I was aware that I was watching somebody, and every time they told a story of something that happened, or somebody told a story like, this is your life, and then, and you know, that day on Wednesday and when they told the story, I felt it. I saw the thing that they were talking about, and I felt it viscerally. But then I started to wake up, and I turned to the person next to me. I don't know who it was. And I said, oh, I'm waking up. I'm going to miss this. And this person said, don't worry about it. It'll be going on for days.
Interesting.
So, you know, days relative, but it'll be going on for a long time.
Days here are nanoseconds there.
Right. But still, the idea that Elvis, even though somebody from the outside might have gotten a full download, you know, Elvis from Baby to Last Day on the Planet, there's also the experience of going, and experience is linear. One
Right.
thing happens to the next, you feel it, you experience it. So that idea, whatever it is, whatever that time frame is, but that idea that for the most part, you felt joy. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
And certainly, go ahead.
Instantaneously.
Instantaneously.
Joy.
And
Like, I'm like, is there a better word other than joy? And he said love.
Love.
Like,
So that
felt before he died, he didn't feel love or loved. Like he was loved by people he didn't know.
I understand, but like that unconditional love that you have for someone else.
Go over there and he goes, everything's filled to the brim. He's just showing me his heart completely filled, like filled up with love. But there was not one space missing. And it's like extracting all the most amazing things from your life that fill up your heart, and leaving down the rest. He just showed me it, like, so your lifetime, just extracting all the major moments, whether they're big, small, and different. He goes, those accumulatively fill up your heart, because everything else just kind of goes away.
And if I could just talk to you about process for a moment, that idea, let's say you're on a stage in front of an auditorium, and everybody in the auditorium is everybody you ever met or was touched by you. And who is the MC? Who guides this conversation? Is it your guide? Is it a teacher? Who is it?
He says it was Jimi Hendrix.
I was going to say, is it Merv?
Jimi Hendrix has showed up so much when interviewing. It's the weirdest, oddest thing.
All right. So are you joking because you're aware of this class and how we've had this conversation about Jimmy in the past?
No, he's saying that God is, or whatever, we don't get hung up on the term, everyone. Whatever that big ball of energy of light that we make, that we're a part of.
Yeah.
Let's say that. He says is in everyone. So it could be anyone that's interviewing me.
Could be anyone, but is it, I'm asking, was it this guy, Jimmy, that you were aware of being the MC? Or is that somebody else like slipping that in?
I think, no, he said that was part of his softer landing coming over.
Okay, listen, we can't judge it. We've heard it so many times as to not be fantastical for us. Let's put it that way. And Elvis, if I may, can I turn to Jimmy for a second? Jimmy, can you come forward? Because for fans of our books, they've we've interviewed him before. We talked about his journey.
Why are you showing me her? Hold on. That was interesting. I just saw someone who's still on the planet, but they're not doing well. Or something's going on with them.
Okay, well, let's not disconcert anybody, but Jimmy, if we may, can you step forward for a second? Or no, or Elvis, this is your forum, dude. It's up to you.
It's just so weird.
I mean, is this Luana interrupting?
No, it was Barbara Streisand that they kept showing.
There's a connection there. Something, some kind of connection. Okay, it's allowed. I was writing about her yesterday.
Shut up.
I'm not shutting up. I was writing about her yesterday because Kutala, the Oracle of Tibet, and I are friends, of course, and I helped produce a CD for him. Produce whatever. I went over to Dharamsala, I recorded it and put it out there. The traditional chants of Tibet. Anybody can pick it up anywhere. But the last time I saw him, Barbara Streisand had come by to see him with her husband, Brolin. And so he had me give her a copy of the CD so that she could have it. It's a wonderful meditation, just Tibetan music and sounds, but they're all prayers for the long life of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And so I've heard people say, listen, I listened to your CD and I can't believe it. It puts me in a trance. But I don't think that's what you're referring to. Is that what you're referring to? Is that why she suddenly showed up in this?
Well, it could be interpreted like that, because if it's prayers and chants and they're saying we need to pray, or they're saying something about prayer, and they're showing me Barbara Streisand, which I knew nothing about what you did yesterday or talking about her.
Right.
They're sharing. Okay, let me look at that. It could be I got the wrong interpretation, because I'm getting pray for Barbara. I'm like, what? Because I know she's alive. I'm like, what do you mean? So my own brain was doing what we make fun of people doing. Hold on a second.
Well, ask Luana. I think she'll be our best source on that.
Okay, because this is a class of music, a lot of it's music. They do want to discuss chanting. They do want to discuss the process of what that does for your frequencies and for the frequency of getting more connected, or feeling you already are connected, but feeling more connected. So,
all right. And a number of people in our class have mentioned this before. It's not the first time.
Barbara's fine.
Barbara's fine. Important for us to say. At the same time, so the reference is a little bit obscure, but it's towards this idea. I mean, when the State Oracle of Tibet goes into a trance, the CD music, that's what he's listening to. I mean, because those monks create this cacophony of sound and it puts him in a trance. And it allows him to connect to the other side, or to connect to someone. Historically, it's a Tibetan who was a warrior back in the long time ago, and he speaks a weird dialect. I'm very familiar with the process, but the point is, and we've heard this before, chanting or listening to chanting is a way to clear the mind. Obviously, not hard to do, especially if you don't know what the words are, right? It's kind of like the cacophony, repetitive thing. However, that being said, Luana is somebody who was an SGI Buddhist, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Tibetans chant Om Mani Padme Hum. Different people chant different things, right? And so is there any specific thing that you guys want to talk about in terms of chanting, or in terms?
Even church music, they're showing me.
So church music. And Elvis, you had church music in your life.
Gospel, yeah.
Gospel. So what would be a method or an avenue? Just put on some gospel.
As soon as you said method, he goes Methodist.
Methodist. Would the process be put on some gospel music if that's your background, or if that's what puts you in a trance?
Whatever music lifts your heart.
Whatever music lifts your heart. Okay. And this is why I asked if we wanted to talk a little bit about music, because certainly frequencies are involved. When we hear Elvis's voice, which is so distinct and unusual. We get into that frequency of who or what Elvis was, or what he represented to us, or the time in our life when we listened to him. The same goes for other music, religious music, Christmas music, any kind of religious music where you're in that space of family, being loved. And so if it moves your heart, whatever it is, and it could be, it could be punk, whatever that is.
Well, Tom Petty showed me Alice in Wonderland, so whatever that song was.
Alice in Wonderland, you mean the, not the movie, but the,
no,
but Alice. I mean, well, what is Alice? Alice is somebody who takes a pill and goes down the rabbit hole.
Oh my God, that's so funny. That's right.
Right? She gets small, she gets large. But that idea of Lewis Carroll talking about going through the looking glass, and this is, I think, Elvis, correct me if I'm wrong. Is this what you're talking about? That music puts you in a holistic health trance?
Yes, it can help heal you. Music helps heal this. It heals the soul, that in turn heals your body.
Heals the soul, that in turn heals your body. I just want to clarify something, which is, it sounds like we're talking about something spiritual here. But Elvis, I'm trying to get to the heart of this. You're talking about something science, aren't you?
Correct. That's weird.
And the point being, it doesn't matter what your belief system is. Crank up the tunes. If it elevates your heart, crank it up. I mean, I've read years ago about how there's sound therapy where they put people in a room with speakers, and it's like the sound waves themselves heal parts of the body. I don't know it that well.
They're utilizing it with Alzheimer's patients.
Very good. And of course, in Alzheimer's, because music is the last part of apparently the brain to go. And we talked about this, how my friend Charles Grodin was the therapy for his brother who had dementia, was he'd sing to him every day. And that was a way for them to completely connect. My mom, who didn't, but she had hurt her hip, and so she went to the nearby place to have rehab, and there were all Alzheimer patients there. And the first thing we did was put her in front of a piano. And so people would come and listen to her play. And that idea of the music elevating, it's not just connecting to your memory. Well, correct me, Elvis, what am I talking about?
It's all of that.
It's all of that.
It's all of that. It's connecting you to, hold on. Interesting, your future memories, because if you play it could be live now, but you could be hearing a recording later. It doesn't matter.
All right, let's think about that for a second. So, which is, let's say in a previous lifetime you were a person who, go ahead.
It's timeless.
It's timeless. So I've always wondered about this, because we've spoken to people who knew Beethoven or remembered a lifetime being a friend of Beethoven's or being another musician.
Right.
And so my question is so let's take Beethoven's fifth or ninth, and that was 250 years ago. And so let's say you've had 5 lifetimes since then. I don't know, 2 or 3. When you hear that music again, are you tapping into who you were before?
Yeah. Yes. The reason why it took a little while, he showed me Coldplay in that song Viva la Vida. Bells, church bells are ringing, Roman Catholic choirs are singing. But nobody wants to hear me sing. But
I'm listening.
That song came from somewhere. He took the past of something that he was.
I see. He connected to it.
And he goes, a lot of musicians do that. They don't know consciously that they're doing it. Some do know consciously. He actually might, but because they know when it's just kind of floats in their head how to grab it. Right.
Well, Elvis, in your case, since you were not writing the tunes generally that you wrote, but you would connect with them in such a way that everybody listening to you would feel whatever it is they were supposed to feel. What?
He said I would sleep with them.
You mean emotionally, literally? What?
He's just talking about the music, like he's holding onto the piece of paper, whatever it is. He would
Connect to it.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about Blue Suede Shoes. You popped that into Jennifer's mind. I know she's not aware of who wrote that song, but we've had a number of people reference that tune on the flip side. You know, Jennifer and I have been doing this for 5 years.
My dad loved that song, and I forgot about that too.
Oh, okay.
If you were to take all the neat nuances of this particular podcast today, so many underlying threads dealing with my dad, dealing with, you know, it's just really it's completely packed full of signs from my father. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. Blue Suede Shoes, of course. Jim?
Yeah.
So, well, you can ask your dad. So what is it about this Carl Perkins tune that connects so many people and so many musicians?
It was so much fun. It reminds him of his car when he used to race cars. And he got in a lot of trouble for it. But he said it reminded me of a time where it was so much fun.
But I just want to clarify, because I haven't seen a Blue Suede Shoe. I don't think I've ever seen one. I mean, I played the tune. I've been in bands and we played the song. But I try to think to myself, well, that must have been something unusual, because your shoe was suede, first of all, right? Suede jackets I've had, suede fringe, but suede shoes, and then blue. So, no, I'll just lay it out there. Jimmy, we talked to Jimmy. When Jimmy crossed over, at some point, he was on stage playing that tune. We talked to John Lennon. When he crossed over, he found himself on stage playing that song, Blue Suede Shoes. I looked it up later on to find out that both Jimmy and John had recorded that song a year apart from each other, not with each other.
That's crazy.
And now here is Elvis talking about Blue Suede Shoes, which he sang, of course. That was one of his signature tunes.
Yeah, but I've never heard him sing necessarily, like in spirit. That was really cool to hear him singing it. Like,
so what's up? Well, what's up with is it the song? What is it?
It's a song that connects generations.
All right. Have you talked to Carl?
Even though I might not have danced away with Blue Suede Shoes, my dad did. So
right.
So it just keeps going.
But Elvis, have you talked to Carl Perkins? I assume he's on the flip side.
He's still writing away.
He's still writing away.
Yeah.
Very good. Pink Suede Shoes.
Oh my goodness.
But have you performed any of your songs on the flip side? That's, I guess, the question.
All the time.
All the time. And so how does that work? Do you get, because look, we talked to Carl Lemley a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about creating movies on the flip side. He actually said the words, once you get bored creating all the movies you could create, you decide to reincarnate. I thought that was hilarious.
That is funny. So he's showing me, because it's like somebody coming up to me and saying, hey, I want you to check out my arena that I built. Will you come play in my arena? That's what he's saying.
I see. So, and so now somebody has mentally constructed an arena, which means all the seats, all the acoustics, everything that you could possibly imagine.
Everything. They try to I asked him, like, do they try to recreate your experiences that you've already had? And he said both. So they try to recreate, it's both.
Both. The experience of being on stage, the roar of the crowd.
Backstage, minus the drugs and alcohol. But alcohol,
well, there's no brains to get addled. But then when you walk on stage, so they've created.
He said being on stage is, he said, say it again. It's like LSD, but it's not, because it's more euphoric.
Because there's a great pleasure associated with it.
Right. And you don't take for granted anything, he says. He goes, I would walk in, he goes, I might have taken for granted even the floor. He goes, when you walk into something that was built or reconstructed, he goes, you pay attention to every detail because you don't want to miss anything.
Wow.
And he goes, I didn't have the word. He just showed me, you know, when he was drinking and was on pain pills, he said, I didn't have the wherewithal to appreciate the depth of what it took for that moment in time.
Of course. You know, you're trying to remember the lyrics, you're trying to remember the cues, trying to remember the rehearsal.
Sleepwalking, not cool.
Well, but that's about the process. And so now, so those frequencies, the frequency of your memory, of you performing the song, the frequency of the person who wrote the song, perhaps, the frequency of all the musicians who played with you, your sidemen.
And everyone that's ever loved that song, filling up with.
And of course, I'm sure the downbeat like gets a lot of people to show up in the auditorium once they hear Elvis is going to sing. That must be thrilling for a lot of people.
Yeah, because people from different countries can come see him all at
That's
once.
all at once. And let me ask you this. So I'm in your audience, Rich, let's say, and I've heard Elvis is going to be playing tonight. And I show up in this grand auditorium. Of course, I'm seeing it from my point of view, where my seats would be, nosebleed, or front row, backstage, whatever it is. But my higher self is watching you. And whereas my temporary self, the stage self, whatever it is, on stage, that guy's not aware of this show or this concert, unless I'm asleep. And then the filters are down. And then I wake up, I might have a little flavor of it. Oh, I think I saw Elvis play last night.
Right.
Right? Is that how it goes?
Yeah. He says,
Wow.
but he says, it's like being able to watch it on TV and then jumping into the television.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a beautiful, beautiful example. Jumping into the TV and you're playing along with.
You don't have to wait. No one's there to tell you no.
Very good. Except
there's a reverence.
There's a reverence for it.
And nobody will go that doesn't have that frequency. You can't
force people into the audience.
Right.
Yeah. And Luana, how did Elvis elbow his way onto your list today? Does everybody just back up when he shows up?
It started yesterday.
Okay, very good. Started yesterday.
With Barbra Streisand.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was writing this thing about meeting her and thinking to myself, I was connecting the dots. I'd sat next to her at an event. I saw her perform at the Clinton inaugural. And you see these kind of strings that go along. And then, here I am handing her a CD and thinking to myself, she doesn't know me from Adam. I'm just, somebody else, a fan, whatever, And then we get into a venue like this and we can start talking about all those threads, all those times, how connected we all are without seeing it, without being aware of it.
And how I didn't know anything. I was fighting it. I'm like, I'm not going to say her name. And, they're like,
no. And it's important. I think it's important.
And it also showed too, that the interpretation can be wrong. So I immediately thought, because anytime that I see someone
who's still on the planet,
I'm like, ooh, are they sick? And so my mind was already racing, and they showed me prayer. And so I'm like, oh, pray for Barbara.
Okay, wow. I see. All right. Now that even makes more sense to me because I was.
Yeah, but you were talking, it was about the prayer.
Yeah, I literally was writing about chanting and prayer and Barbara.
Right. And
same
so
paragraph.
I got all of that information, but I put it together that we need to pray for Barbara. They're like, she's not sick.
She's fine. She's fine.
It was just weird. And it happens like that. And so that also shows you how you can get the wrong interpretation about somebody or something.
Sure.
So this whole episode that we've had today has shown to me, there's just so many things. It's so great that we have this.
Yeah. And the idea of asking questions, because people people, I get email all the time from Cora.
Hold
Go
on.
ahead.
They're also saying you don't have to wait to be the architect over there. You can start doing it here. That's what the whole manifesting. So start visualizing what it is, what your arena is, your personal arena, whether it's, the family that's around, whether it's the, I got to go to a wedding tomorrow to see my nephew. I'm getting emotional seeing my nephew get married. Sorry. It's the first time my dad won't be there.
He'll be there.
He will. They actually put a
Stop that. Jim will be there.
Darn
Of course
it.
he's going to be there.
Darn it.
And don't forget
I know,
to,
he's like, look at all the signs I'm giving you.
and don't forget, really, it's important not to forget, and this is for everybody in the audience. When you're at an event where a loved one is not there, speak of them in present tense.
Yes.
Say their name aloud, tell a story about them, say it in present tense. Honor them by acting like they're standing right next to you. And it'll change everyone's paradigm about what you're talking about. Because, we do have a tendency to talk in the past, and they did, and this and that, and you remember the other stuff.
They get so mad.
But
like, we're here, stop it. We're just in the room over.
Yeah, but look, it's important to, that's one way to bypass that filter, is to just speak of them in present tense. Jim, I want to honor Jim because he's standing right over there, and I want to tell him blah 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 blah. And that's a wonderful way to have him participate. And even though he might be standing somewhere else, which is fine, whatever. But of course, 9 times out of 10, they're putting the thought in your head. So,
Yeah, they are.
Whatever, that sort of thing.
That's
But again,
just like putting in your head 66, which means a lot to my sister, which I can't wait to tell my sister.
That's great. Well, and who did it come from? It came from Elvis. Now, Elvis, did you ever sing that song, Get Your Kicks on Route 66? I don't know if you did. I'll have to look that up.
Movie, he says.
It's what?
He showed me next to, what's his name? The other, hold on. James Brown? No.
James Brown. Get your kicks.
I don't know.
Listen, I was just writing about how I was sitting in a restaurant in Paris and playing this beautiful Yamaha Grand. And a guy came up to me and said, "Can I sing?" And I, in French, "Can I sing?" And I looked at him and I said, "I don't know. Can you?" Because I thought, if he says no, or, maybe, it's like, please don't. I said, he said, "Yeah, I think I can." I said, "All right, what do you want to do?" He said, "Well, let's do, what do you think?" And I said, "How about Route 66? He went, "Oh, fantastique." And so I started playing, and I'm, at this fancy restaurant, maybe 50 people all sitting around, very staid, very serious people. And I'm boogieing out, I'm rocking, I'm having a blast. I'm looking at the keys, and I can hear this guy's voice, and he was like Joe Cocker. This guy had such chops. I couldn't believe how beautiful his voice was. And he was roaring, Route 66. But he started singing Sois, 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 66 in French. And he kept doing that over and over again. And I finally looked up from the keyboard. The entire restaurant was on their feet. They were all dancing. He had gotten everyone out of their tables, and they were like, they were like spinning each other. I mean, it was,
that's so amazing.
I was in such shock. And the guy, was there, get your kicks on Route 66. So on behalf of your dad, Jim, I'm sure you'd appreciate that story. Very good. All right. I know you got to go, Jennifer. And Elvis, we want to thank you for showing up. Lou, any last words? I mean, I got her for a few minutes, I guess. I could steal maybe 5 minutes. Lou?
I'm so crying.
Now that we've made Jennifer cry, I'm sorry. My fault. I admit it. I'm guilty. Lou, anybody on the clipboard that wanted to stop by to just give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or how do you do?
It's my dad telling me to stop crying.
Okay,
And
Jim, it's not easy.
he's gonna be there early, and he's laughing. He used to make us go to church early to be in the front row, all 7 of us.
Oh,
Um,
that's adorable. That must have been a sight for him.
he can't wait. He'll be holding my sister's hand, he says. That's awesome.
Very sweet. It'll be a lot of fun.
Now I can't get that out of my head. 66.
Soissons. Very good. All right, Lou, I appreciate the journey we've taken together. And Jim, thanks for coming by, as well as Prince, who got pushed out of the chair by Elvis. It's okay. It's allowed.
And everyone next week, we will not be here next week.
We won't be here next week because we're going to be celebrating Jennifer's birthday, the day she chose to be on the planet. So next Wednesday, about this time, whatever time it is, in your neck of the woods, raise a toast to our friend Jennifer, who, without her, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
On Thursday. Yes.
Well, am
No,
I saying it's Wednesday, isn't it? Yeah, no, the birthday's Wednesday. Isn't it the 7th? Oh, it's on Thursday. I'll be celebrating on Wednesday.
Where? My birthday's on the 1st.
All right, very good.
And I correct you. The year was 77. That's what we're keeping.
7-7. Yeah, that's right. 7-7. Cool. Happy birthday, Jennifer. We love you. Thank you for your gift. And thank you for bringing all these people to our world today. We love you.
Love you too.
Get your kicks on Route 66. Huh. Now it winds from St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City used to look so pretty. You'll see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico, hey, Flagstaff, Arizona, and don't forget Winona, Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino. Won't you get hip to this timely tip when you're taking that California trip? Get your kicks on Route 66. Hey, come on, baby. Yeah. All right. Get your kicks on Route. Get your kicks on Route. Get your kicks on Route 66.